Hello and welcome to The Good, the Bad and the Worst, a podcast where we watch movie trilogies and attempt to find out which one got stuck with a life it did not deserve. I'm your host and I'm a fucking star. And I'm joined by a couple of stars as well.
I'm Grana, and y'all might as well go home because I nailed this intro.
And I'm Luke Morgan. Divine intervention. Praise the fucking Lord.
That's right. So this Texas drawl is from Ti Wests X Trilogy. It's the little pandemic era trilogy that could, comprising X, released in 2022, Pearl, also in 2022, and Mert Triple X I don't really know how to pronounce that, in 2024. Now, I don't think you guys really knew anything or much about these movies, right? Like I've been following this trilogy sort of since it first came out. Did you guys have any experience? Seen any of these?
No, these feel like a horror movie, like it. Yeah, bit of a hidden gem, maybe, if you will.
Like I'd heard about X, and that it was this well-regarded horror movie, like reviewed well and everything like that. And, Jen Ortega, who's like become a big star since it came out and everything. Had no idea, even after Pearl and Maxine was coming out, that it was a trilogy or like were related at all. And yeah, it kind of trips me out. When I finally watched them, being like, oh wow, this is kind of cool that they did this like trilogy, and it felt like knowing that the second movie was called Pearl when there was like a reveal of the character's name Pearl. I was like, oh, I felt like a Marvel moment where I was like, oh. Yeah, like the universe is opening up. I was like, this is really cool. And it's kind of crazy. I didn't know that, the first two movies were released in the same year. That's kind of insane. But yeah, had no idea. I had never watched any of them until now. So
yeah, it was interesting because the X was filmed, obviously, I think in 2021 during the pandemic, filmed in New Zealand. I don't know if you guys noticed, but you can definitely tell there's a lot of that sort of Australasian.
Saw Frodo.
Yep, there's all those scenes in Mordor. That's the thing in there, right?
Yep.
But filmed in New Zealand, and during so it's like a small little production, as they all were in the time. Obviously, one location, really, small cast and crew. So it's a perfect movie for it. But during that time, during the 2-week lockdown quarantine, Ti West writes a script based off some character work. And then somewhere in the process of filming, that gets greenlit by A24 as well. So they basically end up covertly filming this second movie. And I saw it at the cinema, had no idea. It was didn't know what it was going to be, didn't even know much about Ti West. I knew that he'd done a few other films that were regarded. But then at the end of it, there's kind of this teaser reveal for Pearl. I was like, there's a prequel to this coming out? What's going on? And it was a Marvel moment of this has been secretly done. And people in the cinema were like, holy crap. We're already getting
a trailer already when the first one was released. That's crazy.
It was either a trailer or a stinger or something because he filmed it during. It was. It wasn't it wasn't just we hope to do this. It's the movie was shot and ready to go during the production, so it was part of it. It was a reveal. It was really if you've seen X, don't worry, there's more coming. And it was really it was really cool to see what was an indie horror movie already getting a sequel. It's just and it did have that feeling of we all saw something cool right now, and we've got more of this to come. The irony being, I never saw Pearl or Maxine until this trilogy, but
that shocks me from you of all people, because I feel like you've talked up this trilogy quite a bit, and we were talking about them when they were coming out. Yeah. Before we get into that, just quick question: when you watched it and you were sitting in the cinema, could you tell that Pearl was played by Mia Goth?
Had no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's even on this rewatch, I'm they have done an incredible makeup job because she does not look like Mia Goth.
See, my wife was saying, "Is that her?" And I was like,
"Oh, really?"
I was like, "Don't be silly." And then when it was revealed, I was like, "No." I was like, "They're different movies. They're not related at all." I was like, in the second one, she plays a different character named Pearl. And then when they said, "Yeah, Pearl," in this one, I was like, it all makes sense. So yeah,
there's something very kind of obviously off about her, but it works for the character. Me and my wife were like, "Yeah, that's someone in this suit,t," and then we realized it was her. But
I thought it was prosthetics. I thought, it's someone, but I didn't think it was her. So
neither. I really didn't know it was her, and didn't you're right. It definitely looks she's ghoulish, but I thought it was cool. All right, should we do some stats?
Before that, why did you not watch the other films?
Who's running this podcast?
Yeah,
No, I was just curious. I wanted to come back to this point. I was surprised that you hadn't seen them when they came out.
Well,
So
that's a great question. I'll tell you why. Because I knew that one day in 2024, I'd be podcasting with my boys about this.
Problem with trilogies, isn't it? Now we go like, I gotta wait.
A little bit. No, it was truly that. Like Pearl came out, I missed it in the cinema just because I don't have time or money to see everything I would like to. And then I was like, I'll see it eventually. Came out on streaming, and it was just at that point I was like, I knew Maxine was coming, and I was like, I think I'll just wait till Maxine comes out. And then when Maxine came out, I was like, I think I'll just wait till we do it as a trilogy. And so here we are. Like, yeah, it was just one of those. I can't keep up with content.
Fair enough. Stats.
There it is.
There you go.
All right. So the budgeting of these movies is really interesting. I'll try to explain it as best I can per Wikipedia and other sources. But like the complications come from the fact that Pearl was greenlit during production, so I think there was a lot of money sort of moved around in that. There was probably what is it? Tickets? No, I don't know. The thing where you take stock on the earnings down the road. I think there was some of that. I think some of it was swallowed up. They reused sets from different movies, so like there's what is normally considered part of the budget isn't in there, et cetera, et cetera. So all of this is kind of skeptical, take with a grain of salt. But X is written and directed by Ti West. Wikipedia gives it a budget of $1 million, but I've seen numbers that say it's about. But it's the thing, I've seen a lot of sources say that's not true. They say it's around 3.8 million. I've seen other people say it's around 5 million. So I don't know.
Still, that's impressive.
Still pretty low, but like 1 million seems almost impossible. Even though it's like no one's really a huge name, it's just like a $1 million film.
Jenna Ortega's costing a lot more than $1 million these days.
Yes, that is right. But yeah, it made 15.1 million worldwide. It's got a Metascore of 80. Pearl, again, Ti West, budget of 4.8 million was what I found, and that sort of seems right to me. Made 10.1 million, Metascore of 76. And then Maxine, I couldn't really find any concrete number at all on the budget. Anywhere between 5 and 15 million.
Yeah, IMDb has 1 million again, which like, nah, there's no
impossible.
Way. There's no way.
Considering the cast in it, and like it was shot on, I think, on location in LA, and so there's very few tax breaks in LA. So I'm assuming it's close to like a 10, 15 mil, and it made 22.1 million. Metascore is 64 for that. Any thoughts? Do you want to speak on that at all?
I'm surprised like Maxine is the one that did the best. Obviously it's got the biggest budget and probably had the most promotion. I feel like I heard about Maxine and hadn't heard about Pearl and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, no, it's interesting. Like I would have thought how X did, and even the word of mouth from X, that Pearl would have done better than X at the cinema.
I'd be curious to know like how many screens these movies are on, given Pearl and X came out in the same year and were smaller movies. Wonder if Maxine, given its bigger budget, appeared on more screens.
Yeah.
Like
I just instantly gives it the ability to make a lot more money.
Yeah, I can speak to that. Like Pearl didn't come to the cinemas here, near me at least. And like I have an event near here, and maybe it did and I missed it, but like X was playing for a few weeks, had a proper run. Pearl, I don't think even had a wide release. It wasn't playing it. I think it might have been playing, like the handful of art house ones, but it wasn't playing at an event. So Pearl definitely had a really small run, which I think affects it. Which also makes sense to like, it had like A24 really did a big marketing campaign with that. Like, I don't know if did you guys ever see the promos from this movie where it's like, I mean, Grant, you've got one as your background here.
That image is iconic. Like that was burned in my head when it came on in the end. I was like, I know that image. How have I never put two and two together from this trilogy? But
that's what I mean. So Pearl, I think, had a lot of that viral marketing of like images and shots and stuff like that. And the Scarecrow, her with the Scarecrow, like all this stuff did the round. So I think they were aware that they weren't going to make a lot because it didn't get a wide release. But anyway, all right.
Let's talk A24 for making these movies still, because I feel like they're the only one in this space, like kind of, I don't want to call it B movies, but that tier of movie that's not AAA. It's not like total indie. I mean, even these first couple of movies obviously didn't have huge budgets, but these kind of middle of the range movies, there's just not a lot of space for that, and I feel like they're the only ones there doing it. No,
you're totally right. A24 really is like the indie power. It's like what Miramax once was, where it was not the big main studios, not true indie in the sense of like one guy giving $500,000 or something, like Terrifier, for example. Just an unrelated mention. A24, like they get there's a lot of jokes about them and how they're pretentious, but like, yeah, God bless them for being there because they're good for movies.
Absolutely.
All right, X. In 1979, a group of young filmmakers set out to make an adult film in a rural Texas farm, but when their reclusive elderly hosts catch them in the act, the crew find themselves fighting for their lives. Grant, I will start with you. What do you think of X?
I quite liked X. It was, I mean, I should have probably known better given the titles of some of these movies, but it was pornier than I was expecting. Like, I knew nothing about this movie coming into it. And the first half, it's kind of a lot, but I really I enjoy the the kind of the teen slasher movie kind of vibes of this. Like you've got this core crew of people, you kind of get to know them a bit. They've got some good banter, they've got some good relationships going on, and then just seeing them picked off one by one by these crazy farmers is pretty fun. It's really fun.
Yeah. Look, you'd never seen this, had you?
No, I'd never seen it. I knew the premise and everything like that, but yeah, it can't get away. It's got that really fun, like Grant said, Friday the 13th, teenage camp slasher, and there's something about that's always fun, whether it's a bad movie or a good movie. They're fun to watch. And I think this is a good movie. Like great performances, great twists. Some stuff I didn't need to see. Them old people doing in the bed. That's going to probably stay with me a long time.
I'd say you did need to see that because that was terrifying.
It was terrifying. That, if people said that people were running out of that screening vomiting, then I'd probably believe it. But but I really enjoyed it. Like it was a lot of fun, and you just know it's going to go bad. Like it just sets it up at the very start, and throughout the whole thing, I was like, all right, who's there? Who's the crocodile going to get? Like, and all this, it's like it's all these
crocodile.
Absolutely. But a lot of fun, and then just when it starts happening, like the poor guy in front of the van, and I was just like, oh my God, this is not the direction I was going. You don't think she's the one that's the crazy one, really. At the very start, you think the old guy's crazy, and then it just keeps going. But yeah, I had a lot of fun watching it. A lot of fun.
Yeah, I think the genre mashup stuff is so. I think this movie is just really, really smart. I think, and that's kind of I don't know. That's a bit of an easy compliment, but because like I say, it wears all of its inspirations on a sleeve. Like it's set in rural Texas. It looks and feels just like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's got all those vibes. The teen slashers, like these hot young people, and so it's got all those trappings of that, everything you expect. But then it's like it adds in this exploitation element of like they're shooting porn, and like porn, like sex and violence in horror movies have a long history. They're very interwoven, and like there's been a lot written, talked about that. And so I think this movie does something really clever where it takes all these familiar things and parts of movies and then combines them and sort of makes something that in my mind like feels very unique and new. Like it's kind of that perfect spot where it's like everything, all the ingredients, but I've never had a cake like this. And watching it a second time, I was expecting to not like it as much, but I liked it more. I was like, this. It's just so entertaining, even though what's coming. It's just incredibly well made. But like it kind of uses all those elements to say something new and sort of comment a little bit more about, how sex and violence work and like how they sort of have to be expressed in some way, and they end up colliding through life, and then how the porn industry uses people up, and that can drive them mad, and like beauty and a lot of interesting stuff.
Chasing fame and stardom and all this sort of stuff. Young people. Elon Musk obviously loved this film. He named a social media platform after it. What's the name? But
he's a big mega goth head. Yeah,
he is huge. But yeah, like I don't know, it's a perfect combination for the film. I think you've got both going on, and it's the horror trope of when people have sex, they're going to die in the next scene, and there's video games like that. Like Until Dawn, I'm like, oh, they got it on. Someone's about to come in with an axe, and get them. But it's a good play on it, and I like the characters. I like the cast and everything like that, and I think their chemistry all together is a lot of fun. Like watching them just interact and everything like that. And like the separate couples within there and everything. But yeah, it's creepy old lady in the window. It's just ominous
Yep.
from the start. It's like, what's going on?
It's some good, like, oh my goodness, what did I just watch moments too. Like, even the end where she, like, just blows herself away with the shotgun. It's really funny. And then getting driven over.
Humor.
And
There's humor to a lot of it.
There is.
Yeah, all of it. Like, there's an undercurrent of humor to all of it, which really, I think, undercuts and then ramps up the tension. And like I said, there's so many like twists and turns to kind of keep you guessing. Like, it foreshadows a lot of kills with the alligator and things. Like, sort of tells you where everything's going to go. But then obviously Jenna Ortega gets trapped in their house, and you think that maybe the husband is just protecting his wife, and he thinks he's being attacked. But then it goes, oh no, they're actually killers properly, like, because they've already got somebody caught down in like a corpse in the cellar.
Yeah.
And so at first you think it's just going to be like this old couple's going to snap or something, but it's like, no, they're actually killers. But it's like, would they have been killers if these guys weren't porn stars? And it's like, it kind of keeps keeping you guessing. You're never like, they're definitely killers to start with, but then they are killers anyway. I don't know, it's clever how it.
He's very much like, oh, it sounds like he's just like, oh, she's off her meds. Like, she does this. She goes a bit crazy sometimes. And I mean, but we see that in the second one, that we know a bit more about her, that she just has these impulses. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I do like the humor aspect of it. Like, I think that's what good horror does. Like, you have the humor. It doesn't take itself too seriously or anything like that.
No.
Her being like, oh, I don't like blondes. When like the old man runs up to her like, oh no, was that the one? Like,
Yeah.
Did you kill the one you like? That's your identical twin from 6 years ago. But
yeah. The part that gets me is when Kid Cudi answers the door and you see his silhouette, and he's just hanging dong, and it's like, boy howdy.
It's just played for the joke. I had no idea that was Kid Cudi either. I had no idea. There you go.
Everybody's really good in this movie, actually. Like, I think across all three of these movies, like, the acting is surprisingly top notch for a lower budget series of horror movies. Like, he manages to get some really good performances out of some good actors, which just makes it, so much better to watch too. Yeah,
like, I think he says it. There's a comment obviously in the third movie where Elizabeth
movie with AI.
And that's exactly what this is. Like, this is designed to be a B movie, but it's all AI ideas. And Ti West is obviously a really talented guy. I think he's got a lot to say, and he like knows how to make horror. And yeah, like, he just gets great performances. Like, we'd obviously be remiss if we didn't talk about Mia Goth, because she's the center of all this. I don't know, did you guys know anything about her? Because I sort of did, but then to see 3 movies that are just like, let's just watch her act, it's like, holy crap, okay. She is definitely like Scream Queen material. And I don't know. What do you guys think?
So, I'm just checking now. I don't think I'd ever seen anything with her in it. No, it doesn't look like I have. But like, I couldn't help but think, especially after Pearl, where I was like, man, like, she's a great actress. And like, how is she not a bigger star? And I'm sure like she will be. It's early days sort of thing. But yeah, no, it's kind of crazy that I hadn't seen any of her previous work or anything like that. Since then I found out like she's in a relationship with Shia LaBeouf. Well, I'm not sure if that's still ongoing or.
Yeah, I think she was. I don't know if she still is.
So maybe that's what's dragged her down. It's been tied to that old cannonball, but
don't let your dreams be dreams.
Exactly, just do it. But she's fantastic in these movies. And there are some scenes in particular, and we'll talk about them when we talk about those movies. But there's like monologues and everything like that where it's just pure acting for like a while, and it's really intense and just plays it perfectly. She's great.
Yeah, I think, Conan, you had mentioned her when we talked about Infinity Pool at an end of year podcast, I think, at some point.
Maybe.
Does that sound right? I think you just talked about her being, like a big. She's going to be big in horror, And so I was kind of expecting big things, and yeah, no, I think she delivers, and I think she's really good in all three of these movies.
Yeah.
She's an interesting. She's an interesting sex symbol too for these movies. I think she's not. I wouldn't say she's like really conventionally attractive, especially alongside someone like Brittany Snow.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think that works really well. Like, I think they play it up, and it's good.
I completely agree. She's like a super interesting choice because she's a bit of a like comparing her, say, to probably the other most iconic screen queen like Jamie Lee Curtis. Jamie Lee Curtis sort of had that very vanilla element of like, this is the girl next door. She's cute, but she's like not striking in any way. She's meant to be the girl next door. Like everyone sort of knows someone just like this. Whereas obviously X plays around with this idea. They literally keep saying she has the X factor. Like there is something about Mia Goth that's just weird. It's like she's got the freckles, she's got this sort of intensity, she's got something a little bit just off, and it's
bit of that mental illness. Like she's
like probably date somebody who's a bit weird. Who knows? Yeah. Like there is something something weirdly like she's just she's not a conventional scream queen, but she's probably a better actress than most scream queens are or were in this time. Like. And so it's clever being like this movie's about someone who has an X factor. It's like that is literally like these movies are literally just about Mia Goth. It's so interesting.
Yeah.
Because one of her earliest movies was Nymphomaniac, the infamous Lars von Trier movie that was notorious for its unsimulated sex scenes with people like Shia LaBeouf. So like she's no stranger to this, to getting a start in sort of like not necessarily porn, but like erotic movies. And so it's so interesting. These movies are literally like we're making a movie about almost the real life journey, and we're making it come true by doing it. It's it's meta text on meta text. It's like I don't know. This is my bread and butter. I live for this shit. But yeah, I think.
It does seem, the more you want to look into it, the more you want to understand the characters and the motivations behind the movie, the more you can get out of this movie. Like, there's just layer on layer of that stuff, which is cool.
That's it. Yep. What did you guys think of because I think the other thing that sets this movie apart is like it's got a real heart to it. It actually has a really strong emotional sort of story with the older couple. There's a tragedy there to them, right? Like to Pearl, and they're not just like we need to kill people who are doing this. It's like it spends a lot of time explaining sort of this. She's lost what they have, and she is clearly destroyed by the natural process of aging.
Howard just doesn't know if his heart can take it anymore.
Like that's the thing. It's like you said, Luke. They use humor there to sort of make jokes about this constantly, and like that sex scene with them.
He should have had a heart attack. Like that would have been the best thing. He just absolutely cocked it.
No, it's a good play to like make him have a heart attack in the next scene, though, right? Like
they
kind of set it up there, and it doesn't happen, and then it does happen.
Yeah, and then it pays it off. Yeah,
yeah.
But did that work for you guys? Like the emotion of it, the actual because like there's a lot of that scene where she's, I think so when she first kills JR or whoever, like
RJ,
RJ. There's like this really sort of like beautiful piano piece where she starts to dance in it. And it's like, you kind of get this vibe of like, oh, there is like a real heart and a beauty to this, even though she's just murdered this dude. Like, I don't know. What did you guys think of that?
Yeah. There's a bit of heart there, I agree, but I don't know, there's something very off about them as well at the same time. Like, they're still off-putting. They're still these kind of, grotesque figures in some ways that there's something very off about them.
Yep.
And then we'll go talk about it in the second one, but I don't know if they do much with that concept of like, I don't know. I have some problems with the character of Pearl, I think, but we'll get into it, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I kind of like that. It's not like they're just almighty powerful old people that just go around killing people. They have this like the vulnerability, like the shotgun blows right out the door. He has a heart attack after killing. Like it's good, but I don't know. I kind of do like that aspect of, she tries like on a dress and she's like standing there like awkwardly like, don't you want all of this? And he's just like, oh, god damn it. can't do it. But it's it makes you like go like, oh, I, old people still do that stuff. Like, I don't want to go onto an Airbnb where there's an old couple there now because it's like, who knows what's going to happen,
That's
So yeah,
yeah.
it's made me a bit more cautious with that sort of stuff and booking holidays and I do like that. I do like that aspect between them. I kind of agree with Griner that I don't know if they explore that too much in the second one because really Howard's quite an unknown completely
Mm.
um, in it, and that is something I kind of would like maybe to be explored a bit more. Maybe we get like a Disney Plus TV series,
Yeah, that's what we
like
need.
Pearls or something like that, where it's just about the years in between Pearl and X. But I yeah, we'll talk about it when we talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, like not talking about necessarily the character of Pearl that gets explored. I'm talking more about just having this having an emotional sort of beat to it because the film's main thing is schlock. Like it's very schlocky. It's designed to be this is the sort of almost silly 70s porn era and the slasher horror genre mashed together.
Yeah.
But I think to me, like by sort of elevating that a little bit by having this genuine like having the emotional core of the story not being the protagonist, not being Mia Goth, being the killers, is again a clever twist.
Yeah, it is interesting because her relationship is kind of a bit dysfunctional, right? Like, she's with her producer of this porn movie who's just left his wife for her, and like her relationship is clearly a bit dysfunctional. It's interesting to see, that they do have a heart there, and there is that moment where there's some good moments there. I do agree. Yeah.
Right on. All right, should we talk Pearl?
Let's.
Sure.
Or do you want to actually know first? What's the best kill in X? Out of
to me, it's Pearl. I think like her blowing herself away with the shotgun and then getting her head run over.
Yeah, and divine intervention. That's pretty good.
Old mate getting stabbed in the eyes with the pitchfork is pretty good too.
Man, as soon as he's looking through there, it's like, oh no,
he's stupid. Yeah,
who does that? Right? Who does that? I think my favorite. Yep.
Jenna will getting her head blown off her and she runs out the door. It's just boom, it goes ragdoll.
It's good. I think I just like Kid Cudi's where he's just like meets up with him and like Semper Fi, and then his grandpa just shoots him right. Like it's just really, I don't know.
Yeah.
So again, if you're crawling, he obviously knows this guy's like sinister. It's like, don't let your guard down, dude.
Yeah.
No.
But anyway,
all
right.
Sorry, just before we move on, what did you guys think of the twist at the end where this preacher that we've seen on the TV throughout the whole thing turns out to be her dad? That, like at the time, I'm like, that's like, what does this add to the story? It doesn't really change anything. Doesn't add very much. And obviously, they kind of make it come full circle with Maxine.
Yeah,
but I don't know.
Luke, what do you think?
Yeah, it's like Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet, where he's like, "I'll do it myself."
It's not like that at all.
He'll come back down the line in a future movie.
What are you talking about?
It's alluding to something. We'll find out more about that in a later movie. What's going on with her and her dad? It's a neat little thing. I will say I do like how the movie opens with showing like the results of the scene. Like the cops walking around and like it looks like a damn horror movie. I enjoy that opening and then going back 12 hours or whatever. It's like, okay, cool, we're in for a fun ride here. It didn't do anything special for me. I was just like, oh, okay, he's preaching about his daughter who was obviously it
just felt like a weird note to end the movie on.
I think it brings I think it's a nice just little like, oh wow, this sex symbol / killer is the daughter of a preacher, so it's like that's kind of funny. But I think it adds a really clever, again, it's like it has a clever commentary on sort of like media and generally like the exploitation, like exploitative nature of people, where the whole like having it sort of as having this preacher on the TV almost narrating constantly throughout the movie. Like it starts with it, it ends with it. It's kind of this presence. It's like that sort of almost weaponized evangelical Christian preacher is no different to people making a porn movie or people killing people making a porn movie for what they see as moral reasons, right? Like it's kind of this. I think it's sort of showing this almost hypocrisy of like this guy's preaching puritanical views and like, oh, you eat the horrors of sex and stuff, and we've just seen people be murdered because of that. And it's like this guy's basically preaching that these people are evil. It's like, well, they've actually been, that sort of rhetoric gets them killed.
Mm.
And so I think there's this interesting hypocrisy that is exploring there. Like by having it framing it, it's like the morality of it's a little bit different, and getting on a soapbox and becoming this worshipped for your beliefs and what you speak is no different really than making porn or killing people for what you think is wrong, because it's all exploitation, it's all violent against somebody else.
Yeah, he struck me as a very like prosperity preacher too, which is like the most exploitative kind, right? That I will not accept a I'll not accept a life I do not deserve. Is like that's not a Christian. There's nothing Christian in that statement. It's not a Christian value.
Exactly right. So I think there's a lot of clever stuff there. But anyway, so anything else to share before we move on?
No.
All right. Pearl. In 1918, a young woman on the brink of madness pursues stardom in a desperate attempt to escape the drudgery, isolation, and lovelessness of life on her parents' farm. It's a big change, this movie. Like it's very Technicolor.
Technicolor is the word that came to mind watching it, yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot more satirical, I think, because of that as well.
Mm.
And then it's just a lot weirder. Like,
it is a really weird movie.
Yeah.
That was my other takeaway. Technicolor weirdness.
Yeah.
This movie's off-putting. But it's funny, before I even started watching it, as I started watching, I was like, I'm not looking forward to this one, because I was just like, I'm not about this era at all, and the Technicolor, I was just like, not into this. And then it does feel a bit like satirical, where it's like, oh, like you feel like there's almost should be a laugh track or something after stuff that's said, and I'm like, okay, this is gonna be a bit weird. I really like this movie. Like by the end of it, I feel like I really liked the contrast of the Technicolor and the imagery and the horrorness of it. Like her in this red dress running after this dude with an axe is like this like iconic visual that I think will stay with me, where I'm like, this is kind of fun, like it's a lot of fun. Like, yeah, she bangs a scarecrow. It's like it's a really weird movie.
Just so wacky.
Like, the pig just sitting there, just getting infested with maggots, and then she's holding a dinner with like her dead family that she's killed, like with this pig. It's like really disturbing and off-putting. And just seeing it, like her mind just go through these things and just slip and descend into chaos. And yeah, that the poor projectionist, her poor cousin or sister-in-law, sister-in-law,
yeah.
I ended up really enjoying the movie though. Like there's something unique about it.
It is unique. The thing I struggle with it a bit, I think, is like it almost refuses to give you a character to latch onto and sympathize with. Like her mother is abusive and like terrible to her. She's clearly a psychopath from like minute one, killing animals and feeding them to the alligator, and like, like she doesn't have. I was expecting this movie to paint her as sympathetic almost, and then there's a moment where she snaps or something like that. But you almost don't get that. Like her mum doesn't let her go to the dance recital or whatever it is, and that's kind of the moment that sets her off. But even before that, she's doing really weird shit. And like she's hard to like sympathize with. Her dad is a vegetable. The projectionist maybe is the most sympathetic character, and even he's like barely there, and it's kind of has these, he's showing her porn in this theater and stuff like that. Like even he's kind of a bit of a creep and a bit of a he's a bohemian or whatever. He's a weirdo. So yeah, I don't know. That's the thing I found about this movie that was kind of hard to like latch onto.
I think you're meant to sympathize with her because of that, right? Like you're meant to sympathize with her because of her suffering. But at the same time, you're right. It is very much like she's also, and she acknowledges that in that really big monologue she gives, which is like, there's something wrong with me, and she can't figure it out. I do agree with you. Like, I was expecting to be a bit more like, here is someone who's abused and then snaps. I was expecting Joker for girls, basically, and instead I got a different Joker for girls. I got Nolan's Joker for girls instead of 2018's Joker for girls, I guess.
Pretty good compliment.
It is, but I think for me, yeah, I guess it'd be weird seeing this movie and not having seen X first. Because you would have no idea about anything else, right? You'd be like, why am I supposed to care about her? Who is this? What's the deal with, like, that's the nature of prequels. You're obviously meant to see them with some pre-existing knowledge. But it is interesting, yeah, being like, they don't really give you any reason to relate to her or to understand her, besides the fact of, like, life's a bit shit here.
Yeah.
Which I think did work for me overall. Like, I understood. I was never necessarily, like, sympathetic or, like, I was I was sympathetic but never empathetic. I don't know. I'm not smart enough to know the difference between those. But I understood it, but I was always like, I was never like, oh, good on you, girl. You kill everybody. And I think
you weren't cheering her on with the axe, chasing down the blonde, where you're like, yeah, get that bit.
I was like, this is a kick-ass scene, because you're right. As you see her come out and she's like slowly picks up the axe.
It's so great.
I'm like, really good. And even before that, where she's like, you won't tell anyone, will you? And she's just like, just sort of the slow build of suspense. All that stuff's really cool. But I don't know if I also don't know if it's, I assume it's intentional. I assume you're not meant to be like, good girl, Pearl, I'm really glad you killed all those people. I think you're meant to still be like, she is a monster, but it's just meant to make you, I guess, I don't know, just understand where this monster came from.
Yeah.
But I guess that's the thing for me. Like, I don't understand where this monster came from. It's like she was born with this, as a psychopath. There's just something wrong with her from minute one. Like, there isn't, like, yes, she's probably abused by her mother, sure, but I don't know. The movie, I don't think, gives you a good sense of that, really.
That's right. She's just, like, pinching, like, her dad in the wheelchair.
She's abusing him, basically.
Yeah, and from the guest, like, it's like the first scene, or second scene, she just, like, kills that goose for no reason. Yeah. And that's I guess, that's the question. Do you think that if she wasn't, let's psychoanalyze Pearl for a moment. If she wasn't abused, if she wasn't abused, do you think she would have, like, did the abuse exacerbate that, or did it create that? Or, I don't know, if she was from a loving home and didn't have to have her husband go to war, do you think she would have been like, okay, and it's only because of that these dark feelings sort of grew and grew?
I mean, potentially. Like, I think that's a question you cannot answer with what we're given in the movie. You can only speculate, which is fine. Like, that's the fun of some movies, right? Is you want to kind of speculate about it. But yeah, I guess my expectation was that I'm going to get some sense of what caused her to be the character that she is. And I don't, in my opinion, she is just that character from second zero of this movie. And there's an escalation, but there's no change. There's no explanation. Yeah, and there's no explanation. And why does Walter stay with her now for the next 90 years or whatever it is? Like, Howard, sorry, Walter. Howard.
It's a great question. I had the same thought. I'm like, what does she do to keep him with her? Because, boy,
that's a scene to come home to. Like,
yeah, like, he's just come back from the war. Like, this is more horrific than what he's seen over there. I mean, did you not see the credits scene? Like, that's kind of tough to leave, man. Like, she's not right. Like, that's pretty frightening. Like, he's gonna do what she says. Like, that smile for like 10 minutes where she's barely blinking and like eyes are like starting to water.
I don't think she blinks at all in that. It's
after a couple minutes, she's like barely, like, the eyes are just open and it's like water. I was like trying to have a staring battle with her and I was like, this is intense. But it's a really unsettling credit scene. But yeah, it is like, why? Like, why did he? Yeah, you'd think he'd just be out of there, but I don't know. Self-preservation. He survived. Everyone else ran away and they died.
Because there's a moment early on where they talk about, I don't know, is it in one of his letters or something? But people going crazy from being at war, essentially talking about PTSD, and I expected them to kind of go down that path of explanation of why they're the match made in heaven, why they belong with each other, but they don't give you any of that either. The movie ends with him arriving home, essentially.
Yeah, there's a quote in X where she's like, you know, I can't remember what it is, but she basically says like, this is what beauty will do for you. Like he went to 2 wars for me or something. And she's like, beauty, like a man will do anything for beauty sort of thing. And so I guess the idea is like, the way I read it is, yeah, is like, you're obviously not supposed to have an answer of why, but just this idea that she is so, I don't know, gorgeous, or she has that X factor for whatever reason. And he was like, he would do as much as turn a blind eye to her madness because she was so beautiful.
Maybe he's just like, mate, I have a property now. I have a wife.
Yeah, he's like, I'm a landowner.
She's a bit of a freak, you know.
My sister's out of the picture for the inheritance.
Yeah,
Like,
good to go.
that's it. He comes home and he's like, she's like, she took Eat the Rich literally. He's like, yeah, baby. I'm pro-communism.
She's cooked me this amazing pig. Like,
yeah.
What's the hate?
Yeah, there's 2 different versions of this movie. There is the one that tries to unpack all that and be like, why would a character... Yeah, why would this person exist and who stays with them and what enables that? I don't think Pearl's trying to do that, though. I think Pearl is trying to be more of like it's trying to be like a Technicolor nightmare, basically.
Yeah, and I think it is effective in that. I guess, I guess I wanted something different. And maybe it's my expectation that should change. Because as a you know, Wizard of Oz parody that's full of violence and scarecrow masturbation, it's pretty good, right? Like,
it's my favorite of that specific genre.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's Ti West is more interested in the movie side of it than he is like the deep-seated like psychology of it. Like, I think this is him sort of saying, here is like the rotten underbelly of show business, right? Like, she's obsessed with this world on screen and it's filmed like Wizard of Oz, as you say. So it's beautiful to look at and vibrant and lovely. But everyone here is a bit of an asshole. Like David Corenswet, the projectionist, is clearly kind of just using her.
Yeah. Like
he's just trying to have sex with this cute girl.
Yeah.
Her parents are monsters. Her sister-in-law and mother-in-law are vapid, wealthy people. It's like showbiz is clearly this like idol that she has, but it also chews people up and just everyone's kind of rotten under this veneer. And you know, even to like everyone's wearing masks because of the Spanish flu. And it's like everyone's kind of hiding who they truly are. They're trying to pretend to be something they're not, etc. I think that's where Ti West's interest is. He's not so much in being like, why would this woman exist? Even though this movie does a lot to be like, here's her journey. I think it's trying to be more like, here is what film and the obsession with beauty and image can do to people.
And to people who have probably mental health issues.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like
especially
how dangerous it is. And that works for me. I really click with that because I'm interested in all that. But you're right. If you're looking at this for more of you want a character study specifically, but I want to know why she could exist. Like, it's just not that kind of movie, which is fine. Like, it's not. Yeah.
I do wonder, like, who has seen this movie that never watched X and just walked to the cinema like, oh, look at this Technicolor movie. I'll watch this, whatever, and then just be like, man, this is really going downhill. Like, I don't know what's going on.
It's a bit of a fever dream, I think, without any context.
It feels like that. It made me want to go back and watch X as well, though. Like, afterwards, I was like, oh, I don't know, like, knowing that is Pearl and blah blah blah. I was like, oh, it'd be kind of neat to when I go back and watch it, knowing that all this stuff happened before on that farm and all this sort of stuff. It works really well, and like I alluded to with the first one, like it was kind of a cool moment. Like when I heard Pearl mentioned in the first one, I was like, oh my god, that's what the second one's called. That's her. Like, this is really cool. Yeah, I don't know what it is about this film. Like, I think it's stylish. Like,
yeah,
I really like the iconic imagery, like Grindr's background at the moment, like that smile, that the red dress with the axe. Like, there was just so much stuff where I was like, I was kind of cackling, where I was like, oh my god, this is great. Like, she was chasing her with the axe, and I wasn't like, oh my god, this is a horror movie. I was like, oh my god, this is great. Like, she's chasing her with the axe, and look how bright and colorful it is. Like, I was like, oh, this is a trip. But yeah.
That was my other question, Conan, because maybe I just don't understand horror, but like this movie and the third movie, I would argue, are not scary at all. Do they still fit the horror genre, or have they transformed?
That's I mean, that's a good question. I guess, like, what is horror really? Like, the first one obviously is true blue horror in every way. I kind of agree though. Like, this one and the third one especially don't really feel like horror movies. because this one doesn't have anything.
Third one especially, but
Yeah, third one's different beast. This one as well, like this one doesn't feel like horror until I guess the last act, and even then, it's a little bit more like, yeah, it's more almost like
creepy.
like a thriller or something. Like
I didn't even find it creepy. Like I feel like there's a lack of tension in this movie at all. Like all tension is undercut by the color and the fact that we know Pearl survived. Like there's no danger to her at any point.
And that she's the killer, but she's also the protagonist. So it's like it's not you don't really have tension for the killer you're not empathizing with. But
that's right.
I don't know this. I think what's creepy about it is the off-putting stuff, like the mum at the table, the pig, like the dad, like, and just her as like a stable being is like this really off-putting thing, like the smile at the end, and that's I think where the creepiness comes from, where it's more off-putting than I feel like X is. X is like, you know, your schlocky slasher, but this one I think is a bit more disturbing in a way.
Yeah, like I would still mark Pearl as horror, but you're like it's kind of on that fringe of like it's just this is the nature of genres; they're very malleable.
I know.
And like and horror. This isn't scary in that sense, but it's definitely dealing with horrific topics and subject matter. And like I think it's sort of disturbing is probably the way to put it. Like when she's having sex with the scarecrow, it's like this is just you're meant to be laughing at it, but you're also meant to be like this is really sort of weird and it's just exactly and just a bit disturbing. Like she shouldn't be doing that, and then she's getting abused, and it's like there is a type of horror that is like that is almost more dread-inducing. Even though this doesn't induce dread necessarily, it's just it creates a feeling of unease. Yeah, but I had the same thought watching. I was like, this is it's almost not a horror movie. Like, there's nothing really scary about it. But yeah, I mean, what else would you call this necessarily? Like a thriller?
I think it's horror.
Coming of age.
Coming of age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to work at a video store, and we didn't have an aisle devoted to coming of age. Okay, it had to fall under.
Says it's coming of age period.
That sounds
drama.
like a bad video store. Sorry,
you're a bad.
No reason they shut them down.
What section was a Breakfast Club in, huh?
Drama or comedy, I guess. Look, here are the genres. Okay, there's drama, comedy, horror, action, thriller. Dramedy? No, that goes in one or the other. You have to decide. Adult was there for a while, but that's gone now.
This is the kind of shit why the Bear is voted as a fucking comedy at the end.
Let's move on. Okay?
Yep. Sorry, I didn't.
We also had a world cinema section, which is divisive. It's like what goes in there. Why? Anyway, all right. Are we? let's talk about my video store. That was a cool time.
Next podcast.
Do we have anything else to say about Pearl?
Just her performance on like between the monologue and this final scene where she's just staring at the camera, both like
that monologue is
very well done, very
intense,
good.
like insane. And when because like I felt like I had a moment when I realized halfway through I was like, man, I feel like this monologue's been 5 minutes now. Like this is intense. Like it's still going. This is some serious acting chops.
Yeah. Like this whole movie is just a showcase for her, for Mia Goth doing her thing.
Yeah.
And it all works in that sense. Like if you get a lesser actress here, it's a much lesser movie, right?
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
All right, Maxine with 3 X's. In 1980s Hollywood, adult film star and aspiring actress Maxine Minks finally gets a big break. But as a mysterious killer stalks the starlets of Hollywood, a trail of blood threatens to reveal her sinister past. This is definitely not a horror movie.
This movie is not a horror, like
no,
in any way. I feel like, but
I guess again, it's obviously really like this whole movie is like a genre pastiche. It's clearly just like riffing on all the 80s stuff. It's like it's got the Night Stalker, it's got everything you've ever imagined from an 80s movie, like all the fashion. It's got the video store playing a pretty pivotal role. It's got the private eye.
Like L.A. Noire, like
and to that point, like a lot of 80s horror kind of weren't scary in that sense. But this movie has nothing horrifying. It's purely thriller, which I wonder if is what contributes to its little bit more negative reception. Yeah, I don't know. What did you guys think of this?
I enjoyed this movie. Like, I do feel like it was too long of a movie. Like, I felt like the other two, I didn't really feel like that, but this one, I was kind of like, okay, like it's getting on a bit, sort of thing.
Yeah.
there's an aspect of it, like 100%. I don't. There's nothing in this that's scary, and it feels like, especially the third act, I feel like feels more like the climax of like an 80s action film, like with a final boss set up in a final arena sort of
Yeah.
thing. But there's an aspect of it that I enjoy, and that's, I don't know, like I like this era, of Hollywood and everything like that. I think, the imagery of her with the blonde hair and like the red across the eyes is also a pretty cool, like iconic imagery. I like this. There's a serial killer out there. I enjoy Netflix documentaries on serial killers and all that. So scratch that itch. But yeah, I don't feel like it ever gets to the heights of the first two, or is as memorable, because I don't feel like it does as much to separate it. But I enjoy this film, and there's a part of me that I'm like, oh, maybe I could watch this one again more than the other two, because it's more of an easy watch, I guess. But yeah.
Yeah, I think I largely agree. Like, it doesn't reach the heights of the other two. I like how much Ti West kind of wears his inspirations on his sleeve throughout all these movies, but in this one, like, especially, like, this is like, you could say this is very obviously like Mia Goth's story, right? Like, as you say, started out in a movie like Nymphomaniac, and possibly has had trouble finding roles because of that, but has now found it kind of a niche in horror. Like, and that's totally the path of her, her as an actress in these movies as well.
Yeah, this is the one where it's most, like I say, on the surface, where it's literally like, she's like, name how many scream queens got their start in porn. And then she's like, Maxine Minks. And it's like, this is literally me, a goth, being like, look at what I'm doing, basically. And it's, and yeah, there's the big scene with Elizabeth Debicki that we mentioned, where she's like a B film movie with A ideas. It's like, that is, it's like, that is the definition of what this is. Like, he's not trying to hide it anymore. And this one, I think that's largely the issue that I have. This movie has a lot of cool moving parts. Like, I love sort of I love like you say, Luke, the killer stalking the streets. I love the weird, like, the police sort of crime angle where they're trying to catch the killer, and she's torn in this, but she's also trying to fight. But then there is, I guess, that sort of satanic panic horror element of, like, we see her friends being killed in the mansion, and it's like, and yeah, with the bodies are all cruised. So it's like, there's a little bit of that sort of like 70s, 80s Exorcist or like horror stuff there. It doesn't ultimately come to it doesn't make a point, I guess. Whereas the other two, I think, I've rambled on about them a lot, have a lot of really cool commentary to say about the genres that inspired these movies and like what these movies function as. This one, I think, is a lot more just like, it's a vibe movie. It's like, look at what I created. I recreated every 80s horror thriller movie you like. And I'm like, cool, but is there a point to that? I don't know if there's a point to that. Like, maybe there doesn't need to be a point. I don't know. But I guess after the first two, where I was like, this has got to come together and say all this interesting shit and be really sort of like deep and reflective, and it's not ultimately. But it's still good. It's a good time. Like, it's just fun, hanging out in the scungy 80s LA.
Yep. Doing lots of cocaine.
Hell yeah.
A giant full of cocaine.
Just this giant cookie jar.
Yeah.
What's your guys' thoughts on, like, the big bad, the villain of this, the dad that's very preachy and, against Satan and all this sort of stuff, but it feels like, a false prophet or whatever. What's your guys' take on it? Conan?
I was kind of like, leading up, I'm like thinking the whole movie, who is this killer going to be? And I'm like, I guess it's probably a father. It couldn't be a father though, right? That seems weird. How old is he? And then,
but it seemed too obvious that it was the father.
Yeah, that's it. It was. I was like, surely not. That's an easy. And then it is that. I'm like, oh, that's kind of funny, I guess. Where it's like, it makes you all, again, it's kind of like, who this is going to be, but you're thinking it's going to be smarter. I mean, that's kind of the problem with this movie. It thinks it's maybe a bit smarter than it actually is. I think the final act is a bit of a mess. The whole showdown the whole deals and the shootouts all a bit boring, which is a shame. I think it's a good way to bring it full circle. Like we said before, it's a way to conclude the creature on the TV that we see in X.
Thanos comes back.
Yes, sure. Let's say Thanos, because you're
He's the
brain
big
wetted.
bad,
It's so
isn't he? That
marble
comes
pilled,
back?
Luke.
Yeah, Marvel.
Killed.
I honestly, though, I'm like, I don't think we needed that. Like, I probably would have. I wonder what a version of this looks like where we don't have her having to confront her father, because that feels.
Yeah. Because the other part of me that kind of falls apart is like you talk about, it's got the Night Stalker in there, but they never do anything with that character. You kind of get this weird, almost comedic Kevin Bacon following her around, and she's like not really scared of him at all. She breaks the mirror off his car and punches him with her keys and stuff. Like, I don't know. She never feels stalked, right? Like he's just kind of awkwardly following her here and there, and you get this kind of weird chase scene through the backlot sets and stuff. But doesn't do much of the Night Stalker. You get these buddy cops who kind of show up here and there and then die, and kind of don't do very much. It kind of leaves the last act feeling very messy because now, out of nowhere, it's your father, and we're gonna have this showdown.
Yeah,
which kind of does feel kind of 80s because they did that a lot.
Yes.
It feels straight up. Yeah,
He's a new bad guy in the last act. We're gonna
Yeah, that's right, and it's yeah.
You have her agent Gus Fring that crushes people in cars. That's what he does for his people.
It's a pretty good scene.
Like, that's the thing. I threw out it was like, okay, is it going to be the dad? But I thought that was too obvious, so I didn't think they were going to go that route. The thing that I had at the start, I was like, oh, is it going to turn out to be like she's a killer? So like she's got this killing itch now that, and at the very start when they were talking about Night Stalker and these young actresses and women disappearing, I was like, oh, she's taking out like the competition. I was like, it's going to end up she's going around Hollywood wrecking shop and killing people. And I think that could have been interesting because then it plays into Pearl went crazy. Maxine isn't as unstable as Pearl, so she can actually succeed in Hollywood, but she's still got that bit wrong with her where now she's tasted blood, she's killed someone, she's kind of got this taste for it.
She even does that monologue in the audition, which is basically like, I have this devil inside me and I can't control it. And it's like, well, this could be actually the plot of this movie. And they don't go that way. It's interesting.
Yes, yeah, I had the exact same thought. I was like, because coming up to this, I sort of read a little bit of a synopsis is like she's trying to make it, but yeah, people are dying and someone knows her past. And I was thinking, yeah, but she's killing people to make a movie for herself, or she's killing a competition, something like, which seems almost natural, right? Like following Pearl, it's like, yeah, she has got the same curse, for lack of a better phrase. She just wants to kill people, maybe. And to not take it in that direction is interesting. I don't fully know why. I'm like, because again, it feels like Ti West has leaned more into like, I just need to be super faithful to all the 80s movies. And so I'm like, well, but then as a result, it's like, it's just something that's less than the sum of its parts. Whereas I agree, like that idea of like, is she the Night Stalker, or she's kind of like that collision of her killing in that like the 80s scene, and like how that would be both, I don't know, maybe like the media likes that. I don't want to rewrite the movie, but it does seem like
taking advantage that there is just some serial killer out there and she's taking out some people that a competition, like she's the stand-in actress for this person, so must have been the Night Stalker, like, I killed her or whatever, but
it seems like a natural sort of character arc to lean into, because I guess, and because this is the other side of that is the ending, right? The ending is very corny. It's like she sells her life rights and she becomes a star because of this thing.
Yeah.
Like she would have got in trouble for blowing his head off with a shotgun when the police said surrender, and then she blows his head off with a shotgun. She ain't then just becoming a huge celebrity in Hollywood. That shit would have been plastered all over TMZ. Her career would have been ruined.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if part of that is like it's meant to be a dream, because I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop and be like,
I had the same thought. Yep.
And it feels almost like there is a scene missing of like, are they going to allude to this somewhere? But they never do. So I don't really know why. I'm like, I don't know if he's trying to say something with that of like, this is Hollywood where we always have a happy ending even when the reality is not happy, or something more. But like, I do think the ending is a real miss in this. Like, I think, and overall the general directions, it's just not what I would. Doesn't seem cohesive with the previous two.
I don't know. I almost had the sense of like, are they trying to do more? Are they they're trying to leave it open for other things to happen to Maxine. And I don't think so, but it all tied together so nicely in a neat bow, and there was nothing of value was lost. Like,
no.
She basically overcomes her demons and becomes a star and gets everything she wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And her dream is for it to never end. Like, I was trying to latch onto something there, and it never really delivered on it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do we get another one? Conan, is there any info that they will do another one where maybe she's a washed up actress that never really did make it after that? Like, she kind of died in the ass and now is trying to cling on to that.
This
And now
depends on
she's
how
killing.
Mia Goth's career goes, right? Like,
yes. This is going to be like a before sunrise, before sunset thing where every 10 years we'll get another like Maxine movie, and it's Mia Goth. Where is she now? And yeah, it's like when she's an old woman, we'll get one where she's washed up, and it'll be like,
and she's not in prosthetics. She's actually just an old lady. And she's like,
yeah. No, I don't think we do. Like, these movies haven't done particularly well monetarily. Like, I'm sure they had. Again, like X was a small success. Pearl, 10 million to 5 million, not really, maybe barely. This made 22 million to a probably 15 million budget. So like they might have broke even, but they're not big successes. And their life on VOD and streaming might have something, but these are not the kind of movies I think anyone's, at least for a long while, will be like a fourth one of those is what people are hungry for. I think they're clearly not. And I assume Ti West is done with this. Like I think it's what we can see in Maxine is that he's kind of his ideas, or at least what he's trying to say, or his thesis, is kind of dried up by the third movie. I don't think his interests
over horror. He's like, I want to do something else. I want to do Miami Vice.
Well, yeah, and so he's made movies that aren't horror. He's like one of those directors who's definitely got his start in horror and is strong in that. But he's made other movies as well, so he's not tied to it. But at least in the third one, it definitely feels like he is. It just feels like he said all he's had to say in one movie, even. And by the third one, it's a lot more of just like, I really love this genre. I really love this era of Hollywood.
Yeah.
I want to make a movie in it. So I think this is done. And hopefully, I don't want to see more. I like these movies, but I do not want to see more. I don't want to see a fourth Maxine. Like, there's not really much else to do.
Yeah. No, I agree.
But yeah. I just wanted to mention the scene, the ball smashing.
Yes.
Oh my
hell.
God. The worst. Actually it is a horror. It's straight up horror. That was the most painful one to watch, where it made me jump out of my chair basically.
Yeah.
Oh man, horrific.
And it shows it. Just shows his balls getting like broken apart. It's
Oh God, it makes me sick.
Yeah, I felt it.
There's a scene where he kills the guy in the video store and he cuts the back of his neck. And I don't think I've ever seen that in a horror movie before. Like, he didn't reach around the front and slice his neck open. He sliced the back of his neck. Yeah, and then just stabbed him and stuff. But it was just there was something off-putting about that.
Yeah.
No. Made me want to throw up.
I did like their little relationship, her and the video store clerk.
Yeah.
It's like they're clearly like besties, and this is that quote. He's like, the only reason you like me because I'm the only guy not trying to fuck you. And it's like, so cynical, but that's Hollywood, baby.
Yeah.
All right. Do you guys have anything else to say? Is that probably it?
No.
I'm good.
All right.
We did it.
All right, let's rank them. Luke, I looked at your letterbox, so I already know where you stand.
Did I review these?
You gave them stars. I follow you. All right.
I think Pearl X Maxine.
Yeah.
I'm X Pearl Maxine, I think.
Yeah, I'm the same. I think X is peak.
Yeah. And I don't argue that. I can see that as well. There was just something about Pearl that I was not expecting to resonate with me because I don't like Technicolor, but I ended up really enjoying it. So
yeah, Pearl has like a strong sort of cult. Like a lot of people really, really love Pearl. Again, I think like I think it's like a Joker for girls vibe to it.
I'm there for that. There we go.
Yeah,
all about it.
Oh, cool. Well, right on. Well, thank you everyone for joining us on another episode of The Good, the Bad, and the Worst. Next fortnight, we're keeping this horror train rolling. Holy crap. And we're doing a personal passion favorite, Terrifier 1, 2, and 3.
I'm getting ready. Getting ready. We're going to
People
be
who listen
throwing
to
up
this podcast are
on
going
the
to pass
podcast.
out.
Yeah.
We're going to be throwing up on the podcast.
From the bad taste. Get your bath bags ready. Get your Bibles ready to repent for the sin of watching Terrifier, because we're still in it.
Get your collector's editions with soap and all that sort of stuff. And
Yeah. Play Call of Duty and download Art the Clown skin.
Art the Clown, an iconic horror villain that everyone knows. Household name.
Yeah, look, tune in next fortnight. It's going to be exciting. There's going to be a lot of interesting debate about this, I think.
It'll be good. Good fun.
Yeah. All right on. Well, yeah, thank you again for joining us. Please like, share, and subscribe. Rate us on Spotify, iTunes, wherever. It all makes a big difference. Tell all your friends, well-wishers, managers, dead video store friends about us, whoever. And we'll see you next time.
All of them.
All of them.
Catch you next time.